Hi, this is Atira. She's from the United States. But 3 years ago she moved to Russia.
Even now, if you say I'm going to Russia, in America, people will be like, whoa, Russia, really?
We crossed paths in a small Russian town which is not so popular among foreigners.
Atira, I'm so glad that we meet in Anapa.
Yeah.
In this video we will take a short walk around Anapa. We'll talk how Atira is doing in Russia, why she moved to Russia, and discuss many other interesting topics.
It's going to be the biggest surprise most foreigners have of Russia, just because they have this stereotype where Russia has a way of keeping you here, I think.
Right. Thank you God that I live in Russia.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how it's happened that you're here?
I have a friend who used to live here and comes down here for holidays, so I just come to visit sometimes during the summer times, and I wanted to try something different from the usual tourist places of Sochi and Gelendzhik and stuff. And I heard that there were really nice beaches here.
By the way, Atira lives in Moscow for around
3 years, almost 3
years.
years.
So how it's happened that you came to Moscow? We'll come back to Anapa.
Yeah,
But first, it's very interesting to know how did you get to Moscow?
My parents actually moved here with my younger brother 5 years ago, I believe, to work at an international school. So I graduated university in 2018 and in education. So my dad said, hey, do you want to try it out? Russia's really great. So I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So I just came. I came for a year, and Moscow or Russia has a way of keeping you here, I think.
Right.
So I stayed. Now I've been here 3 years. My parents are really used to moving around because they've been in the world of international education for all my life. And so they had an old contact here who had a school. They actually came here 15 years ago also. And
Especially to Moscow,
to
right?
Moscow, yeah. And then they lost contact for a long time and happened to reconnect over Facebook. And the CEO of the school was like, oh, do you want to try coming to Russia? And my parents weren't doing anything at that point. So they just were like, yeah, sure. They picked up, left.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do they know Russian language?
Not really. My brother learned pretty well. He was 13, I guess, when he came. So he picked it up a lot better because he's younger and more friends. But my parents are always teaching English, even after school. They're always teaching English.
Oh, okay.
So,
but is it possible to live without Russian language? How do you? Yeah.
In Moscow, definitely, for sure.
Many people know English.
A lot of people know English pretty well, and they're willing to help you out a lot if you ask. And the lifesaver was, well, one, that after the World Cup, Moscow put everything into English,
True.
metro signs, all that kind of thing in English. A lot of the menus at restaurants are in English. Two is Google Translate. When I first came to Russia, my mom and brother weren't here. They were in Korea. And so my dad got me from the airport, and then he had to go to Ukraine the next day. So he said, he took me to the school, introduced me a little bit, and then he was like, okay, you're on your own, bye, I'm going to Ukraine. So
Are you sure your parents love you?
yeah, I don't know. So I was all by myself, and I went to the grocery store and I was like, oh my goodness, nothing is in English.
Yeah.
Oh no. And then my dad was like, just use Google Translate. I was like, okay. And so there's the camera option where you can just point it at words and it translates it right away. So I'm a little bit ashamed but I use that quite a lot.
Cool job. And can you tell us a little bit about your school? This school, it's a private school in Moscow.
Yeah, they have like a dual program. It's half an actual accredited Russian state school. So the Russians that go there, and even some foreigners who want to, can get a fully accredited Russian diploma and do all their classes in Russian. But then it also has an international side, so we have students from 35 different countries, and you can get an American diploma through that.
Wow.
So a lot of the Russian students that come to our school, they get 2 diplomas. So they get the Russian and the American diploma, and they kind of do half of their classes. They do the fully Russian program, and then they also do the American program as well, kind of half and half.
What about, for example, mathematics, or is it by English language or Russian language?
So they do both.
Both?
Yeah.
Oh.
So they're in a regular classroom with all the foreign students as well. So we have a classroom, it's like 20, 25 students, where we do the American program. So we do all the core subjects, English, math, social studies, science, and like spelling. And then they have Russian classes in between. So they'll go out to a regular Russian class and then come back in and do their American program.
Okay. And may I ask how much money they pay for example, 1 month?
I actually have no idea.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I don't attend as a student, so I have no idea.
Okay, no
Yeah,
problem.
but I mean, I'm sure because it's still an international school, it's still kind of pricey, but it's on the lower end of most international schools in Moscow, I'd say. So.
And how many students?
A little under 300, I think, at the campus. But then, and we have preschool to 12th grade. But then they also have a very large online program. And their online program is like 1,500 students or something, and growing a lot, especially after the pandemic. It's been growing a lot.
Okay, if come back to that you travel around Russia without Russian language, can you say about your experience? Because I was so surprised. You was in Sochi, in Gelendzhik, in Krasnodar, and you don't know Russian language. Tell us the secret. How it's possible?
The secret is to have friends.
Okay.
I guess. Yeah. I just alone, I haven't done too much traveling. I took like plane and stuff. That's all really easy. But last year I had a really good friend who's also a foreigner. She's South African, but she speaks a little bit more Russian than I do, and she's more outgoing. I'm like shy, so I don't. If I don't have to ask, I try not to ask. So my friend's more outgoing and willing to ask people. So she helped a lot. I've used BlaBlaCar with a friend, but that's all been through the friend.
I was surprised that you use BlaBlaCar because I'm a little bit afraid to use this platform, but I see that you have a great experience with this platform.
Had really great experiences, yeah. We even had one person who was so nice, he even gave us the ride for free, like because he was so happy to like talk, I guess. And so yeah, it's cheap and have had great people.
Listen, but it's true that Russian like foreigners, right? And they always want to communicate, to know more about you. How do you come to Russia? And
yeah, I guess so. I've mostly been in
or not or.
I guess it's more me because I try to stay pretty closed. But my friend is always, my outgoing friend that I went last year, she's always talking to people. And so, yeah, if people hear me speaking English, they might ask. And I'll say, okay, I'm from America. And then they'll be like, oh, USA. Those are the good experiences. I've heard of some people that have had some bad experiences about America, but yeah.
You mean Russians?
Yeah. But for the most part, they all really respect it and think it's really cool.
I mean, they say you something bad about USA?
Not me, but my dad had a little bit negative experience, I guess.
Really?
Because he was American.
Is it with just strangers or?
Yeah, it was just a stranger. I think in a barbershop, he heard my dad speaking English, and then was like threatening him, I guess. But I've never experienced anything.
I'm so apologize for this because I think I don't like these people because this is people and this is politic. You need to be, it's absolutely different, different things. You need to speak with person, but not with politic.
Right.
That is why I can tell you the truth. I don't like these people, and I even don't want to discuss with them because I want to see near to me the person, and I will decide. If it's a good person, I will speak with with him. If it's not so good person, it's no matter. From Russia or from USA, I will not speak with them, with this person, because of his personality, not because his nationality.
Yeah, exactly.
So sorry for this.
But I mean, and even my dad will say, like, our experience has been really positive in Russia. I mean, and he was so excited about me coming here because he's like, oh, it's so great here.
Yeah.
And the other thing is it's so safe here also.
Can you tell us about this? Which city did you visit before in Russia? I mean.
In Russia, I haven't visited too many, but I visited St. Petersburg. Oh dear, I can't remember it. Nizhny Novgorod?
Yeah, really?
Yeah, and Sochi, Gelendzhik, and Anapa, and Goryachi Kluch.
Yes. Yeah. And how was your experience? Which city did you like more?
I love Moscow. I also really liked Sochi. Even though it was crowded, I don't mind too much, and I just was really surprised after being in Moscow with all the winter and the cold. I was so surprised to come down here and it be so nice and warm, get a nice tan. I've never had such a nice tan as here. It lasted like months. I was really surprised because Russians, their skin tans so well with like this beautiful golden tan, and I'm so jealous of it. And it lasts a really long time compared to other places even, so yeah.
By the way, we spoke before about we decided to compare Sochi and Anapa. As you know, I have a huge video about Sochi which help you to travel there, and we discuss about apartments, how to rent apartment here, and we have the same opinion that it's more difficult to find a good apartment in Anapa, right?
Yeah, well,
The
especially
cheapest.
I think if you're just looking for a single person.
Yeah.
If it's just one person, it's much more difficult here because there aren't really hostels like Sochi. Sochi has a lot of hostels that are really cheap. Here it's mostly seems like guest houses and then really expensive hotels.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And the guest house is not in a so good condition.
It really depends. I don't know. I've been to a couple that are like, they're okay, they're decent, they're clean. The people are really nice. You get your own bathroom and the room. I mean, obviously it's more expensive than Sochi, but you just have to find the right place, and it's better if you can be here to check it first. I think maybe.
This is my experience. I came here to one place. It was absolutely not the same what I saw in Booking, and it was just quest yesterday to find another place, and now I live in a guest house for one person, but it's not so good place to live. Look, this is the house where people live and rent rooms, not apartment but rooms, and this is place for take a tea or something like this.
If you don't mind the cost to get a hotel here, there are several hotels that I mean, maybe to US or Europeans isn't really that, even though it's costly for people here, really not that costly for people in America or the West.
Tell us about your experience in Anapa. What are you doing here?
I really like Anapa for their beaches because it's really different from a lot of the other coastal towns. So like Sochi especially is unique to, I don't know, foreigners because it has the rocky beaches, right?
Yes, exactly.
And so that was really new for me last year. I was like, wow, I didn't even know there were beaches like this. But it can be a little hard on your feet because you have to step.
Massage.
Yeah, it's a hard massage. But the difference here in Anapa is they also have some stony beaches, but they have really, really long sandy beaches here with beautiful sand, beautiful water. There's a lot of like shallow areas like for kids here that's really nice. And then you can go out deep. They have sand dunes here, so that's really unique about Anapa. I don't know if you can see, but there are some of the rocky beaches here in Anapa. You can see the beach down here. This is the main beach, but it's really, really crowded. I was here at 8:30 in the morning, yes, a couple days ago, and you couldn't even find a spot at 8:30 in the morning. So if you want to, you know, relax, then you have to go down a ways, maybe around over there. But it's much nicer there with like sand dunes and stuff. So you might need to, you have to walk quite a bit or get a scooter. One of the negative things, I guess, about Anapa but a lot of places that I found in the south is they have like these amusement kind of parks and lots of rides. So it can be a little bit, I don't know what you call it, gaudy, I guess, but I'm sure a lot of the kids like it. Look, they even have like these air-blown water slides in the water. So yeah, it can be a little bit cheesy, but I think for families it's really nice. It's like a port city a little bit. I know they have some water rides like jet skiing. Oh, you can see some jet skiing right there. Let's go somewhere else. This is a ancient Greek settlement, and these are the ruins that they found here, because there were Greeks before in the city of Anapa. They actually just found new ruins. Anapa has really, really changed a lot. Things are becoming much nicer. Even from last year, there are a lot of things that are more cleaned up, more businesses coming in that are classy and cute, you know, nice restaurants or cafes that are coming in. So they've made some nice like nighttime walkways with pretty lights. So I guess it's really different from what Anapa was before. So something you might find pretty common in Moscow or something like that. But for Anapa, I think it's a really big change. Nice walkway down here. It's really pretty at nighttime. If you keep going, you'll find some cute places with nice lights and stuff.
Can you say Americans and Russians, do we have absolutely different mentality or not?
I would say yes. Russians and Americans have pretty different mentalities. I think for the most part, Russians are really practical. Like, and that's what I like about them. Like, they're very practical, and if something's, you know, difficult, they're very flexible. They're just like, they adapt well to when things are hard, when times are hard, and when times are easy, they adapt well. Americans, we're very consistent. So like here, a lot of times the laws change very quickly. I don't know, working in a school even, it's the same, the rules and what's supposed to happen changes all the time. It's like we're doing something and then we're not doing something. So that can be a little frustrating for Americans, I think, coming here is you have to be really, really adaptable.
What you still do not accept in Russia? What is not common to you?
What's been really hard for me is the bending around the rules, because I'm usually a rule follower, and Americans tend to be more rule followers these days, I guess. So it's interesting to see how in Russia there's a rule, but I'm the exception. Like, there's always an exception, and it's always for me. But I mean, at the same time, I've also come to appreciate that, because a lot of times there are rules that are not necessary or overstep their bounds, I guess. So it makes sense when the rule doesn't make sense, right? So that's been something that's difficult for me, but at the same time I've come to appreciate it, I guess.
And what kind of stereotypes exist in your country about Russia, and is it true or not? What do you think?
I don't know. I haven't heard too many stereotypes about people in America, like Russians, I guess, except maybe that they're very like hard and, you know, don't smile, very serious.
Is it true?
They don't smile, but I think that it's opening up a lot more these days. And I think Russians tend to be closed to strangers, but then once you get to know them, they're very, very warm, right? I think that's a common thing that foreigners find here is that when you become close, they're really, really warm towards you.
What about Russian food?
Oh no.
You don't like
Well,
Russian
no.
cuisine?
I had to. So I don't know. So, most of my friends will call me a foodie. I wouldn't say I'm a really good foodie, but I do enjoy my food, and I come from like a Korean background, half Korean background, where we have lots of like flavors in our food. Yeah, a culture shock to me is because there's not a lot of flavor in the Russian food that I've experienced. So I really like spicy flavors and like a lot of spices, and here it tends to be very muted, I guess, you know, not a lot of spices. Here I found some Chipotle Tabasco sauce, hot sauce.
Really?
And so I've been taking it around with me and putting it on my food. At the same time, I don't think that my judgment is very fair because I haven't had too much like real Russian food aside from what's served at the school. And so usually school food is really bad. So, you know, in general, everywhere around the world. So I don't think that counts as real Russian food. And otherwise, I haven't really had that much Russian food. Somebody gifted me a book. It's a book that a Russian immigrant to America, she's a food writer and talks about the different food eras and at the same time interweaves history and her own family culture and her own story. It was a fascinating book that really showed me a lot more about the history of Russia, not just in cooking. I learned a lot about Russian culture through that book. Even now, if you say I'm going to Russia, you know, in America, people will be like, whoa, Russia, really? And I've heard even to come work here in the embassy, Russia is actually like a high-risk nation. Like many people find it's a high risk to come here, so you actually get paid more if you work as a diplomat here.
But do you think is it true?
Well, no. And when I came here, I was like, what? Like, you know, because people perceive it as unsafe. And this is I would say one of the safest countries I've ever been to. Second, like top, second safest country I've ever been to. If my family lives in Moscow, we live in like Chertanovskaya, which I guess is perceived as not a very good neighborhood. But and there are, of course, some shady characters at nighttime, you know, who might get drunk and that kind of thing. But I've never felt unsafe there late at night, you know. So even there, I don't feel unsafe. Traveling around, even outside of Moscow, has been always very safe.
I mean, it's not necessary to walk in the night, you know, in any city, but it can be dangerous. But in general, I mean, in daytime or...
and I'm using that as an extreme because most of the time it's not good to walk around late at night, especially as a female, right? But even doing that, I feel very safe. It's going to be the biggest surprise most foreigners have of Russia, just because they have this stereotype that it might be unsafe.
And also all foreigners think that Russians are harsh people who live cold, but in reality, when we go to another country where it's cold, we always like, oh, it's so cold, and people say like, you are Russian.
I know.
And what?
Especially in Moscow. Like, we know at our school, as soon as the cold weather comes, all of our Russian students, at least, so a quarter of our school, you know, all of our Russian students will be sick at home. And we're all like, wait, aren't they Russian? Aren't they used to the cold weather? Or like I would always get yelled at because I go outside with no coat on, right? So the Russian guard at our school would always yell at me if I go outside with no coat on. And to me, I'm from the Chicago area, so we get very cold winters with lots of snow. And I know people who go out with shorts,
Yes, I
in
saw it in
America.
America, yes, in Ireland, America, and I was in shock, Yeah. And what is not common for you, I'm sure about it, that in wintertime in apartment too hot.
Yeah.
And, too hot. For example, when I go, now it's not so good time to travel, but before when I went to Ireland or USA, it's always cold in apartment when it's winter time. Not in Russia.
Right.
It's too hot. What about for you? Is it comfortable or not?
Yeah, well, it is really hot because we can't control it. It's central. Yeah. But I mean, I think it's much nicer than in American houses, just because in American houses you're like, can you please turn on the heat? It's so cold.
Exactly.
And you can just open the window if it's too hot. So I enjoy it. I really like it.
Me too. Every time in winter I say like, thank you God that I live in Russia.
Yeah.